Power to the Truth. This is October the 9th, 2018, and this is Margo. And some articles came out today regarding the Pine Island Glacier in Antarctica that is melting, and there's a part that's about to calve off and this and that. So I thought I would do a little research and find where this glacier is and where it's breaking off and just what we're looking at. So just briefly, this is NASA Worldview that I have up, and I actually have up October the 5th, 2017, so it's from about this time of last year, because we're not really able to see much this year of what's going on down there. I will show you this year as well, but I want to start with 2017 and show you the part that calved off last year and how dramatic that was. And I'm going to share these articles. I'm going to start with the articles. The first one is from bigthink.com, and it's entitled "The Pine Island Glacier is About to Calve Another Monster Iceberg. This is doubly worrisome on the heels of the recent UN climate change report, which gave humanity an urgent deadline to cut carbon emissions just 12 years. Well, you know, they're being way optimistic on that. I mean, it's too late to cut anything, so we're doomed. That's my opinion. I mean, I know a lot of people think that we can do something, but when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's all coming down. So this article came out today, October the 9th, by Brandon Weber. Here's a picture of the glacier from October the 1st. And this is the part that they're worried about that's going to be calving off. And this part calved off last year. And this is sea ice right here that you're seeing. And then these things that look higher, that's what's left off of the iceberg that calved off last year. And so, and then the sea ice, it kind of all froze back together. But now that the Antarctic is coming out of its winter, it's going into its spring and summer with daylight, with the sun not going down for the next few months. The sea ice will be melting, and they're expecting this to calve off. I'm not quite sure when, so I'll just read this one. It's the same glacier that calved in September 2017, losing an iceberg 4.5 times the size of Manhattan. The size of this one, however, is about 15% bigger than the last. It's the sixth large calving event from this glacier since 2001. The irreversible collapse of the West Antarctic ice sheet would raise sea levels 20 feet, says the UN. Now, the West Antarctic ice sheet is a large area. It's much larger than what we're seeing here. What they're talking about basically is the ice that's from the glaciers and that's over, you know, the ice shelves and things from the west side of Antarctica. So, going back to the article, the Pine Island Glacier, aka PIG, or PIG, I don't want to call it PIG, I'll call it PIG. Here's what it looks like. The area of the iceberg poised to calve off the Pine Island Glacier is about 115 square miles or 300 square kilometers. About 1 year ago in Antarctica, the Pine Island Glacier calved an iceberg about 100 square miles in size 4.5 times the size of Manhattan. And it's about to do it again. Okay, let's just come back over and I'll show you what they're talking about, the part that calved off last year. So here we're looking at Antarctica. Here's the east side, here's the west side, and this is from October the 5th of 2017, and so it was at the end of their winter, and we can see the sea ice that's around the continent here. And Pine Island Glacier consists of this area over here. And here's the West Antarctic Peninsula. And if you remember my video I did about the Larsen ice shelves, they're over here on this upper part of the peninsula. So the Larsens are up here, but what we're looking at is this area down here today. So you come down, and then the little part that comes down and around, and it's the Pine Island Glacier kind of takes up this whole area, and it feeds, it's coming out into the ocean here. And the area that they're talking about, now this is all sea ice here, and this is sea ice. They're talking about this area up in here, and so this is October the 5th, and this is where it calved off last year, and this is the iceberg that was formed, this big huge thing here. This is sea ice here, this is all sea ice. And so that's what they're talking about, that calved off, and then it ended up breaking up, and it's just in pieces now. So if we go back up to this picture, these are the pieces of that big thing that broke off last year. These pieces, these things that look higher than the sea ice. And in fact, I can show you where it starts breaking up. It's quite dramatic. Well, we get into cloud. The hard thing about NASA Worldview is, you know, you've got all these clouds that you have to deal with. You just have to keep clicking through. Okay, you can see it starting to break up here by the end of November. Here's a good shot, and I'm as close in as I can get, but we can see it starting to break up. Here's the end of November, November 27th. But it just stayed up in there and just broke up. And you can see it breaking up here and see more of the water here. This is December 6th. There's a good shot. Now you can see it starting to break up even more. Here are pieces here. This is sea ice down here, and the sea ice is holding it in. Well, okay, now you're starting to see the pieces, see it really come apart. I'm not sure how this happened. It's warming from beneath, obviously, for it to do this. And I know that there are lots of volcanoes underneath the Antarctic, and they did find some active volcanoes underneath this Pine Island Glacier. Now you can really see the pieces. So that's what got all smashed up. Here's the end of December last year. Okay, so by the time we get to January 1st of this year, it's really broken up and you can see a lot more open water there. And if we back out a little bit, we can see the sea ice that came down here, but it was melting, and the sea ice normally does melt around the Antarctic. Pretty much all of it melts during their summer season, and then it has to refreeze. And then, oh, look at this. See, it's really broken up here by January 6th. So very rapidly, and so this is in the middle of their summer, because their summer is opposite the winter up in the northern hemisphere. So around December 22nd was when it would have been the hottest and everything. So that's when we saw it really breaking up. Look, here's a really good view, and lots of open water, and you can see the chunks, the little pieces here. So we'll get back to the article in a second, but I just wanted to show you what they're talking about and the fact that you can find this yourself and see for yourself. Here it's even more broken up. These are icebergs. These are pieces of the large iceberg and where it's broken apart. They look really square. Isn't that odd? I wonder why that is. Rectangular and square and geometric. I don't know if icebergs are normally geometric like that or not. I don't know enough about them to even know what to say. But we've got sunlight up here. Oh, this was a good image. So here it is, February 2nd of this year. And you can see it's just keeps on being broken up. And in the meantime, the glacier is still melting and, you know, things are moving down. We can't really tell unless something really starts calving off and doing a dramatic thing like this. Here's broken up into a lot more pieces. But I wanted to show this to you today since these articles just came out. I just think it's pertinent to just find this stuff when the articles come out so that we can be following along with what people are reporting on. Now look how much more the water opened up here, down here. So it's a much larger area now. And I looked through to some past years, and in some past years all of this sea ice melted. I think it was 2016. There was no sea ice down here, so it was really dramatic. So it just depends on the heat and the melting, and you know what goes on as to whether all of this sea ice melts every season, every year or not. Okay, now we're getting into the end of their melt season in March, and you can see the pieces coming apart and breaking up even more and getting smaller. And it looks like we're starting to get some ice back. Well, I can't really, yeah, I think this is some sea ice is starting to come back. Let's check out our ice surface temperature, right? There are no clouds there. So this is where some ice, sea ice, has started to come back, but you can tell the difference between the iceberg pieces, those pieces, and the sea ice. You can definitely tell the difference. You can see they look elevated, and those are the pieces of that iceberg. Then we've got a lot of clouds, and okay, here's a good shot on March the 19th. And so we'll have a reference point when we go back to the article, and we'll know more of what we're looking at. Not many clouds those few days in March. And about in April, the sun goes down, and then we don't have a view anymore. Okay, we can see some refreezing over here in this patch now as well. So they're getting towards their winter time now, or into the fall. Okay, here's April. Okay, now we're losing. Okay, so we're we didn't have data there for a couple of days, so we can see that it's pretty much refrozen, but these are the icebergs here. And that's all we've got. Then we start losing data because the sun starts going down. So let's go to today and see what we can see in this area. It's cloud covered. Okay, so let's just review. We're just going to pull out, and I'll show you where we're looking. We're focused right down here in this little nick, and where it comes up, this is the glacier and the ice shelf that's coming out, and then this is sea ice down here. And it's cloud covered today. So let's go back until we can see something that's not cloud. We've had a lot of clouds down here. So that's why I started with last year, so that you could kind of see what we're looking at. Okay, there are no clouds here on this day. I've already checked back through the days. This is pretty much cloud free. So this is sea ice that we're looking at, and so when we zoom in, that's as close as I can get it. This is sea ice. This is the glacier up here, and these it looks like embossed or elevated areas are old pieces of that iceberg that broke off. So that's what we're looking at. And so what they're worried about is this area up here. And I can't really I can't get in any closer than that, and so I can't tell where their line is that they're looking, but it's around in that area like that. I haven't seen a line. It's just been a lot of clouds this year, and you know, these cameras are different from the cameras they're using. And the sun just recently came up in the Antarctic, So let's go back to this view. This is a good one. So it's this area along in here. So now let's do our articles, and you'll know what we're talking about when you see these articles. As the planet warms from 1.5 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius, the risks grow rapidly for some very dangerous tipping points, including the irreversible collapse of the West Antarctic ice sheet, which would raise sea levels 20 feet. Reads the UN's recent IPCC report. That stands for Interplanetary Panel, International Panel on Climate Change. It's doubly or trebly worrisome on the heels of the above UN IPCC report, which basically tells us we're screwed unless we take drastic action, and I mean drastic, in order to curb emissions and slow the inexorable drift into an Earth that looks like one of those terrifying science fiction novels. Okay. A 19-mile-long or 30-kilometer rift is splintering across the ice sheet. Now this GIF, it's kind of hard to start it at the beginning, but what it's showing is this area and the ice as it comes down. The glacier, as it comes down, it breaks off and calves off, and it's calved off down through the years. And so here it is where it was coming down from April of 2017. There is in June, and you can see it coming down, and there's the little line. And there it is in September of 2017 where it broke off, and we saw that, and then that was the end, and then it starts over of November of 2014. So you can see all of those things if you want to. You can go back to NASA Worldview and go back through the different years and days and stuff. If the West Antarctic ice sheet collapses, it will mean a 20-foot sea level rise, and it will release twice as much carbon into the atmosphere as exists today. Anyway, so, but they're talking about the whole Western Antarctic ice sheet, it's a huge area. I don't think we're going to be here to see that. Here's another article about the same thing. It's got, I think it's a little more detailed. This is from Live Science, and it's also from Today. Huge iceberg poised to break off Antarctica's Pine Island Glacier by Laura Gregel. And here she goes from September the 17th to October the 1st, and showing the movement in the water just from the 17th to the 1st, with everything kind of like breathing. Looks like it's breathing and moving down. A newly discovered long and craggy rift is splintering across West Antarctica's Pine Island Glacier. The nearly 19-mile-long, or 30 kilometers, rift started in the middle of the ice shelf, where the ice shelf touches warmer ocean waters that are melting it from underneath, said Steph Lermit, an assistant professor in the Department of Geoscience and Remote Sensing at the Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands. The rift only has about another 6 miles or 10 kilometers to go before one or more icebergs calve, breaking off from the glacier, Lermit said. Another such event happened a mere year ago in 2017. when an iceberg 4.5 times the size of Manhattan broke off Pine Island Glacier. And we already saw all that. And then here's their picture from December the 1st, and they're showing the area that is expected to break off. So we can be watching that in the next few weeks. And this is a good picture because they describe it. They say that's the glacier, and here are the arrows, and here's the red part that's set to break off. And they label it that this flat part is the sea ice, and these elevated areas are the icebergs, and that's from what broke off last year is what we saw. Laramie found the new crack by analyzing satellite images of the glacier, which he receives every day in his email inbox. It was Wednesday evening, October 3rd, and all of a sudden I saw something I didn't see the day before, he told Live Science. If the iceberg breaks off in one piece, it will be a whopping 115 square miles, or 300 square kilometers, which is even larger than the one that broke off last year. The 2017 iceberg was 103 square miles, or 267 square kilometers. If the resulting iceberg is large enough, it will receive a name, Laramie noted. But regardless of whether the crack leads to one or many icebergs, this will be the sixth large calving event that Pine Island Glacier has experienced since 2001. Granted, it's natural for a glacier to calve icebergs, but what's concurring about Pine Island Glacier is that it's calving icebergs more frequently than it used to. Pine Island Glacier birthed icebergs in January 2001, November 2007, December 2011, August 2015, and September 2017. So here's the picture of the 2017 where it broke off, and this is the iceberg that broke off and broke into the pieces that we saw. And so this is the new line for 2018, they're thinking. The upcoming iceberg isn't loose yet, but the fact that the rift is almost across the entire glacier, it might happen relatively soon. It's challenging, however, to say what soon means. According to Laramie, the calving event will likely happen in a matter of weeks or months, but it probably won't take years. I expect this to happen from now to sometime this Antarctic summer. Once the breakage happens, the iceberg will likely stay frozen if it hangs out with the sea ice in the Antarctic. But if ocean currents carry it farther north, the iceberg will melt in the warmer waters. Pine Island Glacier is one of the fastest flowing glaciers in Antarctica. Every year it loses 45 billion tons, or 40.8 billion metric tons of ice, which in turn causes sea levels to rise 0.03 inches, or 1 millimeter every 8 years. The Washington Post reported last year that sea levels would rise 1.7 feet or 0.5 meters if the entire glacier melted. This video, which runs from 2000 to 2016, depicts just how much ice Pine Island Glacier is losing. And you can watch the video. Ice shelves are important because, like dirt clogging a sink that slows the drain of water, they impede the glacier from flowing full force out into the ocean. Once the upcoming calving event happens, Pine Island Glacier will have retreated nearly 4 miles. As for why Pine Island Glacier is losing more of its ice shelf, the icy portion that doesn't touch the bedrock but extends over the ocean, it's hard to say. The warm water that is melting the ice shelf from underneath was pushed up from the deep ocean. The reason why we get this upwelling of warm water is certainly climate related, but it's very difficult to say if this is climate change related, Lermont said. Antarctica is a very sensitive continent for climate change, but for this individual iceberg, this is impossible to infer. So there you have it. So we'll be watching this area here. Definitely we'll be keeping an eye on this area and the rest of the Antarctic as it's melting, as it's coming into its spring and summer, and just kind of watching things melt and disintegrate. So, time is short. My name is Margo. My website is margoshealingcorner.com. I recommend you get your spiritual houses in order. No one knows the day or the hour. I love you, and until next time, God bless. Go in peace. Goodbye.